Making money could make you more spiritual.
Yes. What is the difference between a traveler and being a tourist? In
you
some of the
know-
movies, I really like the villain.
You like the villains, right? Okay.
So, what are masculine and feminine energies? Welcome to Decode with Anu. Today, we are going to talk about wealth, love, relationships, leadership, and sex. And all these elements are part of a good life. And we are going to hear from somebody who has been my teacher for many years. His name is Raj Mali. Very warm welcome, Raj.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here with you.
So are we. What are shadows, Raj?
Shadows. Shadows are those aspects of our personality that we like to hide. Or that we have tried a lot to hide it from the public eye. And sometimes even from ourselves. So what constitutes a shadow is all those memories of your past that you don't want to visit. Goes into shadow. Stuff that you have done that you're not proud of goes into shadow. Stuff that you have a strong judgment against because of the society you live in goes into a shadow. Stuff that was told to you is not acceptable. And you had that as a part of your personality, and then you consciously disconnected from that part of you. That goes into shadow. And according to Jungian belief, if a shadow is not attended to, it begins to have its own form, and it comes up at a time when you're least expecting it. A brilliant example I can give you is Tiger Woods. If you remember, Tiger Woods is one of the finest golfer that we had. But when he was at the peak of his career, he succumbed to his shadow. Okay, and I don't want to judge it because I can understand it. But that's how powerful shadows can be. They can catch you at the moment of unawareness, and you end up doing something for which even regret is not sufficient. Okay, and hence I feel that one should do the shadow work not to avoid the embarrassment, but if you don't integrate not so good a part of yourself, you are never fully present in any relationship. Shadows, if not integrated, you can't be honest. Rather, one of the biggest shadow, which is lying, for example, exists because we don't have space to tell the truth, which is true. But if this is not dealt with, I find it very difficult to attract a loving partner because my shadow doesn't allow it. Because if I have suppressed a lot of lying, or if that is a method that I've used to get few things, I cannot fully trust anybody.
Yeah, so true. And all the shadows are unconscious, right? They are blind spots.
Yeah, they are blind spots, and they can suddenly come to awareness by chance coincidences. And those are also your opportunities to just step back.
Okay.
For example, if you have known somebody, let me give an example from an office. I was working in an organization, and I found that this guy who was always known to be super calm, super chilled, always focused on his work. And one day something happened, and this guy actually threw a coffee mug at his colleague. And we were all very shocked because this guy was the calmest person we knew. And we have never seen such a violent outburst. And then the way he began to abuse, you are like shell-shocked. Like, this guy can abuse?
Oh my God.
How is this possible? And this whole thing lasted for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And then everybody came, calmed down, all that. And I was like, oh shit, I think, like me being me, I'm like, oh shit, I think his shadow kicked in. I hope he gets enough support to now to deal with it. But the most unfortunate part in any place, I would say, not just in India, is we only look at the behavior. And when we are only focused on behavior and always categorizing good behavior, bad behavior, then the person has no way to integrate it.
Yeah. But in this case, how could he integrate his shadow?
The first step that he has to acknowledge that A, yes, he can be abusive. B, yes, he has violence in him. C, yes, he has a part of him which seriously wants to harm the other person.
Oh.
He has to first acknowledge this truth.
Okay.
Okay. Most of the shadows fester because we don't want to accept the truth. That's the festering ground for shadows. Okay. I know of a guy who kept on putting on this mask of a nice family guy, but each time I would interact with him, I would say something doesn't fit right. Like sometimes we get this feeling with people.
Yes. And somebody who's really positioning or projecting as being really calm demeanor, also really when you look at him or her, you feel no, there's something amiss out there.
कुछ तो अलग है, अंदर है. Okay. And one day of the same guy, his not affair but affairs came out. And then it was very tragic for him because, like in his word, when he came to work with me, he's like, everything I did to protect my image collapsed because of this one slip up. And I said, hang on. It wasn't a slip up, it was a nature's wake up call.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to always say to all the audience, that no matter what you're trying to hide, know that it will come to light. And truth will first piss you off like nobody's business, but then it will set you free. And this is something I would not want anybody to forget or take it for granted.
Yeah.
If you're messed up, the mess is going to come back. The reason why I feel the shadow work has to be done is if you don't do shadow work, you don't become whole. And you get lost into being a good person on this planet. And I've seen most of the worst thing on the planet has been caused by so-called good people.
Yeah. And one more thing, so there are a couple of things, but before I go there, you said about good people, you know, who project themselves, and especially in the realm of spirituality.
Oh, yeah.
It's always like everything is good. But you know, when you look at them, things are not really good. So again, they have put those things behind unconsciously and said, okay, this is not a part of me. So these are your demons as well, right?
Yes.
And then you really have to feel that you have to get them together to feel whole and complete.
Yes, you have to accept that.
Accept that.
Yeah.
And what stops us?
Well, what stops us is two specific things. First is we feel with our shadows we won't be accepted.
So it's about being accepted by the world.
Being accepted by the world.
Not about you.
Yeah. No, and second is you.
Yeah, but you're not accepting it because you feel that you will not be accepted by
outside.
the world.
Yeah. No, it's like a chicken and egg. I feel that sometimes when you accept something about you, it's easier if at all somebody outside judges you because you accepted.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you don't seek that validation.
True.
But if you haven't accepted it, it's like, if I can't accept it about myself, how do I expect somebody else to accept it about me?
The point I was trying to make was the fear of your image outside.
Yeah.
That's why.
The heart of the block is fear, you can say.
Yeah.
Fear stops us.
And second?
The second piece, what stops us from integrating our shadow, is we are going to enter a space of unknown. And we don't know who we will become if I accept this. And people have crazy imaginations. Oh, then I will go wild and I will do this. No, you won't do any of that.
Yeah.
Rather, if you don't do it, then definitely you'll do anything. But if you do your shadow work sincerely, consciously, I think you begin to enjoy life more. At least from my personal experience, I say I became more open, I became more accepting, I became more sensitive with even other people. And the most important in my relationship to myself is it's quite a relaxing feeling when I say that, hey, I know I'm lazy, but I still have that shadow. I don't work much. But now I look at it as my secret strength. Honestly, I feel it's my laziness which helped me attract riches. And there was a time I had this paradigm that I have to work really very hard. Okay, and till the time I was stuck in that paradigm, I was very, very disheartened. Okay? So sometimes the shadows actually can lead to good. So when I truly accepted this laziness and why this laziness exists in me, I realized that my reason was I needed a sense of space and time. I'm a spacious person. And what is laziness is my shadows, I would say, feeble attempt to replace spaciousness with avoiding what is important to me. And most of the stuff we struggle with, there is a shadow behind it. And hence I feel...
So going back to that example of the person who threw the cup at his colleague.
Yeah.
So one is acknowledging that I have this, these shadows. Then what would be the next step?
The second one is also appreciating that this could be useful in some context.
Like how you just explained.
Yes.
The laziness, how it helped you.
Yeah. So it has to be, the second step has to be seen, because if you see the power of it, okay, then everything can change.
Power and also the intention behind
it. Yeah. Then everything can change. One more facet I find for integration is you embody it in your day-to-day living. That is the best way to integrate a shadow. For example, for the same person, okay, if he acknowledges that he can be abusive, he can be violent, and he can lose his top. If he accepts this, okay, he would be more at peace with himself.
Yeah. Then to feel guilty about what he did.
Okay. Number two, when you become aware of something, you have more choice and power to use it when the context is right.
Because you know.
Okay. But when you're not aware, then it becomes a challenge.
And you were mentioning about people in leadership levels.
Yes.
Yeah, especially at their mid-age, maybe 30, 35, 40, and so on. They need to do shadow work.
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Okay, so in the corporate space, I have seen that leaders who don't do shadow work often end up, I know cheating is a very high word, but often end up letting down people they work with.
They may be even having integrity issues.
Yeah. They could themselves fall into very serious trouble if they don't do it. Okay. Most importantly, their impact on people and also the kind of example that they're setting. Because if you're a leader in any organization, whether you like it or not, anybody who looks up at you, you are responsible for the example you are setting. If your shadows are not integrated, you are going to, whether you like it or not, you are going to appear a little fake to people. Okay. So a lot of time when I do these workshops and leadership labs, sometimes I ask people, when you talk to your boss, how do you feel? And sometimes they say that, I don't know whether I can fully trust him. The moment you get that feedback from your team member means they are sensing your shadow.
Yeah.
But because you haven't integrated it, they are going to keep a distance. This is another amusing gift we have as human beings. We sense people's energy. We have a sense of something being a little off, and our guard comes on.
Yeah.
Okay. People who have done shadow work, I will find that others in their company feel very safe.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. They feel pardoned very easily.
Yeah.
And they feel deeply accepted.
Yes. Yes.
Because here is somebody who's accepted himself, who's pardoned himself, and who's integrated. And that's a difference.
More authenticity.
More authenticity. Most important impact is on business itself.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when senior people don't do shadow work, they don't mind manipulation. They don't mind taking the customer for a ride once in a while. They don't mind doing stuff which may actually harm in the long term to the same organization that they're wanting to serve.
Yeah.
And all of this is happening because they aren't doing what is important for them to do. Having said that, it's also difficult because when you're in a leadership position, you can't be vulnerable also. It's like a paradox. And I love those people who have done shadow work because they know how to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
being vulnerable is also being courageous.
you have to be.
Yeah.
It's
That's why
like
you are. Yeah. So, Raj, then how one person, one leader, or any person, even at home, become authentic? So, being authentic was the toughest one that I have been through.
Okay.
Yeah. And however, many years ago, when I did some work on myself and realized that when I became authentic, everything changed. Yeah, the whole world changed for me.
Yeah.
And but before I share all of that, you tell me how to be authentic and what stops us from being authentic.
Okay. Again, I say that being authentic is reconnecting back to your inner child. Okay, we were once upon a time very authentic people when we were children. And then something began to happen in our environment, and even while we were children, we slowly learned that, hey, this is not a good behavior. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. First step to authenticity is asking the question, how I am truly with, let's say, X person. And I feel that authenticity always shows up in the context of relationships we are in.
So the shadows, besides the example that you gave about one of your colleagues in the office, which other areas does it surface?
Shadows show up in dreams many times, and most of the time I've seen that shadows show up as a masculine figure for women. So they will see like a monster or a beast or somebody who's trying to overpower, or sometimes they would also see a crowd which is trying to harm them. So that's a sign of a shadow. And for men, mostly it is a feminine figure sometimes. But shadow shows up sometimes also like an animal.
Okay.
Like a strong, big animal which is trying to harm you or which is needing your attention for something. And shadow always makes his presence felt, especially in midlife.
Okay.
Because till midlife we are too occupied. Okay. But it's like when our capacity to suppress something is over, that slowly begins to come into your consciousness. Okay. And so that's how it shows up. Yeah. This is
and when it shows up for anybody, the audience who are watching us, what they need to do?
I think the first step is, again, I will use journaling. There's also something like dream journal. So you make a note of your dream or the shadow that you saw. A very simple question that always works with shadows is, once you've identified a shadow, this comes from very old shadow work technique which is practiced by Buddhist monks. And this one lady, I'm forgetting her name, and she came up with this amazing question. It says, always ask your shadows what do they want from you. Okay? Because each shadow wants something from us. It needs either attention, it needs love, it needs a sense of acknowledgement. Because shadow is also, it's like a small child. It is doing that to get your attention. So if you give it what it needs, then the shadow dissolves. Rather, there is also one imagination exercise where you feed the shadow.
Okay.
With yourself, with the whole of yourself. This comes from Tibetan shadow work.
Like?
So for example, in this exercise, you close your eyes, you are seeing yourself in a room, and I normally like to, my eyes always close up whenever I'm doing this exercise, and you see yourself sitting on one chair and your shadow is sitting on the other chair. Sometimes you call onto your shadow, you don't know how it looks, and you say, hey, my shadow, if you're around in this room, I would like you to manifest here on this chair. And then it will take whatever form it takes. Sometimes it is very ugly, sometimes very scary, and sometimes it is very laughable also. It would take a very weird kind of a look also. Then the first question you ask is, what do you need from me? And wait. And to your surprise, sometimes the shadow will answer what it needs from you. The second is you ask, how will you serve me if I give you what you want?
That's a profound question.
And that's,
how would you serve me if I
how
give
would
you
you
what
serve me? You know, because in this, what you're doing is you're acknowledging the fact that it can serve you. It's not something that you're going to reject.
Yeah. Yeah. And also what is occurring to me, Raj, to even ask who you are.
You can. You can.
And
And sometimes it can source, it can tell you where it is coming from. In fact, sometimes if your shadow is coming from the ancestral dimension or from your past lives, then sometimes it reveals itself that, oh, I've been around on this. And if you have seen some families struggle with certain diseases and which they have seen across ages, okay, across the lineage, then you know definitely a shadow is active. Okay, so you don't know where it all comes from, but yeah, that's a powerful question to ask. Who are you?
Yeah. And also, so it's only in the dreams, or even like you mentioned about ancestral, so it can be even in the past life regressions that they do?
I think in past life regression also sometimes people claim that they have encountered their shadow, especially ancestral shadows. Other place where you will see your shadow is when you are, this is a very simple method, you know, any movies or stories you like, okay, and where you begin to develop empathy towards the villain. Okay.
Okay. In some of the movies I really like the villain.
You like the villains, right? Okay. And so when you like the antagonist of the story, the facets of the antagonist or that villain is speaking to your shadow. And hence you like it, you know. And it's like there is this very beautiful dialogue in Batman where Joker tells the Batman that without me, you can't be the hero. And that is true. Without the shadow, without overcoming your shadow, you can't go on to the hero's journey or the heroine's journey. Rather, the whole metaphor of hero's journey which Joseph Campbell talked about was all about how do you conquer the inner demon.
Yeah. So shadows are your demons, huh?
They are. And when they integrate you, they not only fill you with a lot of vigor, a lot of sense of life, energy, but they also make you more accepting of others.
And because you said that how it will serve you, I feel the shadows would always give you a gift and go.
Yes. All shadows give me a gift.
Give you a gift?
Yeah. For example, very important task that I forgot in the shadow work. You have to also learn to name your shadow.
Okay.
And most of the time, my suggestion is when you're naming it, give it a funny name so that you can develop a relationship. Okay. So, like for example, I can share, I was doing the shadow work with a woman.
What is your shadow name?
Okay, so maybe I can share mine, you know. So, as you know, one of my shadows was this deep, angry man that I was when I was young. So, I lovingly used to call him. Okay, now I feel very embarrassed because it's going to be online.
So it be.
So I used to
Why am I laughing? I think it's already a very. Okay, I get it.
So I used to call him Lal Tatya.
Lal Tatya?
So Tatya, because when I was growing up, in my school there was a peon whose name was Tatya and he was very scary. Okay, and Lal because like now I'm not that fair, but when I was a kid, I was a bit fair, and then whenever I would get angry, my cheeks would get very red. You know, so for me it was like Tatya and Lal, so I called him Lal Tatya. But because that guy was so good also, though he was very scary, as we grew up, we felt he's just another guy, he's just too tall, and that's the reason people get scared of him. But otherwise, he's a very gentle guy. So it helped. Okay.
What is the connection between shadow and sexuality?
Big connection.
And let's hear that. Huh? Let's hear that.
Okay. So till the time, let's say a man or a woman hasn't fully embraced a shadow, they haven't really seen peaks of ecstasy in their experience. What integration of shadow does is, once you've integrated that part of you which is unacceptable to you, which you don't want to access, which you want to disconnect, when you accept that, it also releases a certain energy within your whole body. This is what Carl Jung used to talk about. I think that's where the genesis of all dimension of psychosomatics came in. When a certain shadow is integrated, for example, for a man, when he integrates his feminine shadow, he actually becomes more sensitive towards women. Okay. Then just holding a woman is not a boring act for him, which otherwise men being men sometimes, that is like, that's how they think. When the woman acknowledges and accepts her masculine shadow, she becomes very vocal about what she wants. She becomes very clear about what is not okay. She begins to set her boundaries very well. She will not go into an experience which is not pleasant for her. But till the time that is not done, she will just go in with anything, and then she will unconsciously sometimes be in an abusive relationship for a long period of time.
Exactly.
Because she hasn't integrated the masculine side of the shadow. The second piece...
And that also makes me say that then the woman and the man chooses the partner, whom they want to be in the intimate relationship.
Yes. And it's like you feel that when your shadow is integrated, your presence, even during the act of love making, is truly, I would say, phenomenal. Okay. Otherwise, a part of you is always holding back. Okay. And what hampers sexuality is holding back patterns. Neither the man is fully giving, nor the woman is fully giving, and then
the peak of ecstasy doesn't happen.
The sense of union, the sense of oneness, spending long time in an intimate encounter. One of the ways the shadows has affected men is this whole phenomena of 11 minutes. That's the max they can do it, and then it goes away. But people who have integrated their shadows, especially for men, I've seen, they are not so obsessed with the final act of ejaculation. They are truly in it to enjoy the process. And then it becomes more pleasurable for the woman. For the woman, when this happens, she feels that she has the safety to keep riding the waves of ecstasy, one after another. She is not afraid to ask for more. She is not afraid to tell the partner that, hey, I'm not done yet. Okay. And I feel that's what makes the relationship more juicy and healthier. So
and it blossoms.
It blossoms once it is integrated. If it is not, it affects it negatively also. Most men who deal with erectile dysfunction, I highly recommend shadow work first. Because when the psychosomatic knot clicks in, things change. At least I've seen it. Not with everybody, because sometimes some people really have a physical manifested issue in which they have to, I normally say, you have to consult a doctor and do whatever is necessary. But this happens even for women. If they haven't done their shadow work, they find that their ability to even open up to a more sensual, loving experience or even a new partner becomes difficult. Because what are they afraid of if they're not attracting somebody? They're afraid of the inner masculine. Because the outer is going to mirror the inner. I am so scared of the inner, the outer cannot come in.
True that.
So
Great, very profound. While all this work that somebody does on herself or himself, one of the most important milestone I feel is to become authentic.
Yes.
And why is it difficult to become authentic? One is, what is being authentic, and why it is difficult to become authentic. And then even in relationship, it shows up. So.
I guess being authentic is as simple as being yourself, and hence it's very difficult. Okay. Because I don't know who I am, so I don't know who I'm going to be. Being authentic is learning to speak the truth moment to moment about yourself. Okay, it's not about being the most honest person in the room. That's not being authentic. Being authentic is saying that, hey, right now I am feeling angry. Hey, right now I am feeling a little disturbed by the comment that you made. But you're taking self-responsibility. When you're being authentic, you are never blaming. You are saying, I am feeling this.
Or I feel hurt because
or
you
I
said
feel
this.
hurt. Okay. So I am taking ownership and I am stating the truth that I am indeed feeling hurt. What happens when we are not authentic is I don't say that I am hurt and my anger is bubbling up.
Yeah.
You remember the times where you have not said something to the person and next 2 days you're talking to this person in your head. Okay. And that kills us. That kills our joy, that kills our mental time. It's like we have given free rentals to somebody to stay in my consciousness just because I didn't say what I had to say. What was the second question? I forgot. One was
what stops us?
What stops us? Fear. Fear of being perceived in a certain way. And the biggest fear about authenticity, sometimes it is also masked. We sometimes say, I'm not being authentic because I don't want to hurt you. The fact that you have done something which has the potential to hurt you is bigger than not telling.
Yeah.
I think this is where the shadow comes up. Okay. Because I feel that if I tell the truth, I will lose love, and which is true sometimes. The other person chooses to not then interact with you or whatever. But till the time I accept the fact that it's not about each time, every time somebody else has to accept me, it's about actually testing. I discovered the more authentic I became, the more my friendships became deeper and real.
Maybe very few of them. Not
very
many,
few of them, yeah. Like for example, when I came to Pune in the year 2000, 2001, and I was recovering from my loss of business and this old life that I had in Mumbai, I very unconsciously began to tell people in the first 5 minutes of my meeting with them that, hey, this is my current situation. And it kind of actually helped me because people who stayed with me then, they are still with me now. They're still part of my very close heart connection, family people, because they knew my worst and they still chose to stick around. And then I feel when I come to my best, they should be the first one to deserve the love, whatever else that I have to share with them. And hence I feel authenticity helps you also find people who truly love you.
Because they don't love you because of something, or they love you in spite of everything.
It's like, as I say, that love is forgiving and love is forgiving. So if somebody can forgive you, seeing you in your shadows and still choose to be with you, then they truly love you.
Yeah.
When somebody leaves because they have seen a certain shadow, then absolutely that's also good because it's honest. They made a statement, I can't deal with this. And it's best to not make it work in such situations. It's best for you to part ways.
Yeah.
But that is being authentic. What irks me is people stay in inauthentic relationships for a long time. The biggest cost of this is you lose touch with yourself.
Yeah.
Your heart stops supporting you because your heart doesn't really know what is the truth anymore. And you lose touch with what do I really want.
And that's how people get into toxic relationships.
Toxic relationships.
And they don't know how to come because they feel so comfortable in that.
And I guess one of the ways I feel to avoid being in a toxic relationship is to be very authentic, especially to a person with whom you want to develop a long-term relationship.
Okay.
So I sometimes give these exercises, sometimes couples come who are newly married and all of that. And I ask them a few questions in person, in private, and then I know that, they don't share these things. And then I'm never the person who will say, she was saying this. And I say, okay. Then I create levels like A, B, C, like I have these 6 layers of authenticity. And each couple then goes to, layer 1, do you share this? And then they go back home, they share that. Then level 2, then level 3. And then sometimes they feel that, oh, I think now we are enough. I don't think I can be more honest in this because the fear kicks in. What if she leaves me? If she gets to know this about me? Level 3 is all about past processing, stuff about my past that I haven't shared with my partner. And I feel in today's time that is necessary, not only for building authenticity, but also for genuine medical reasons. If your boyfriend has had unprotected sex, you have all the right to know as a woman, and vice versa. And I've seen that when you move through each test of authenticity, you genuinely open your heart more for this person, and vice versa. And then your ability to accept the other one's shadows or uncomfortable truths also grow, and that's how you come closer. Because
and 2 questions here. So one is, having authentic leaders at workplaces is becoming very important. And also, so after you answer this, then I will, there's one more which is very interesting question for me, but first this.
Okay.
So what, it's important to have authentic leaders at workplaces, and I understand that leaders sometimes get into the space of being inauthentic because one, they are not aware, so they must do workshops of inner journey, and second, they must become aware that what's stopping them is actually a fear, imaginary fear, and the reality is not out there.
I think the reason why the higher the person is in any layer, whether it's in the corporate or any social or even otherwise organization, we have to first understand authenticity in the context of leadership. Authenticity doesn't mean that your team has to know about your personal life. That's not what authenticity means. Okay? Authenticity means how you feel about something truly. Let's say you're bringing in a change in the organization. Okay? Or let's say you're a CEO and you're CEO of a group company, and US headquarters decided that now we are going to do this and we're going to make this change and all of that. And when you hear it, your first reaction is bullshit. What is this? Okay. Now here, what has happened is what you have encountered is anger. What you have encountered is disbelief. What you have encountered is a feeling of this will not serve. Okay. What sometimes people do is, rather than first confronting, talking to a few people, engaging from a place of genuinely wanting to understand what's the reasoning behind this change, they go to their leaders as the next line leadership and they say, oh, this is the order which has come from US headquarters, aap kar lo. And why they want to do that? Because they know they've been in business for too long and changes keep coming, and they're like, I don't want to bother myself with it. And after some time, when that backfires, who gets held to account is this leader. So what you're trying to avoid by being authentic, as I said a little earlier, you can't avoid stuff that you've done. It is going to come back and get you. And not from a karmic, scary point of view, but from a very functional point of view. In today's world, I feel we are so intelligent, and I'm sure you must have had these experiences. Sometimes you enter home or you enter office and you have a vibe and you get a sense that aaj kuch to gadbad hai. Okay, if we are so intelligent as a species, what's the point in hiding what you're truly feeling?
True that.
Yeah. But if at all you feel that is necessary, it is a requirement of your job, you have to ask that question to yourself. How do you feel about it?
Or even like this example when you said that the person doesn't believe what comes from the headquarters, is about really telling the first line authentically that I really don't believe, but we have to follow it because these are the instructions and these are done for all the other probably legal entities.
True that.
Let's do it. So, and they also will see the authenticity that you are putting out there, and then they will work, and then he also is accountable and is able and responsible for that. Yeah.
I think mostly in the corporate world, I've seen people avoid authenticity because they feel it will add up
More responsibility.
more responsibility and they have more things to deal with.
Yeah.
But on the contrary, in my coaching experiences, I have seen that when people become authentic, they actually have an opposite experience. Okay, because when your team knows as who you are, when people who are collaborating with you know who you are, what you can do, what you cannot do, functionally it actually becomes better for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, the worst thing is leaders who are still trying to protect and still trying to project that I know everything. Like recently I'm coaching a CEO and this is an experience maybe I can just share without naming the organization. He was too busy trying to show the Gen Z that he knows more about a certain technology. They are into very super hyper technology space. And I say, what would happen if you were to just acknowledge that you really struggle now to catch up with them? He's like, those guys will eat me up. They won't respect me anymore and X and Y and Z. I said, yeah, but I'm sure that one day they're going to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And then it would be too late.
Yeah.
And somehow, I don't know what happened in the session, it caught him. He went back, he sat with the team and like I have a, when you work with seniors, sometimes you have to create a format. So I gave him a format. I said, when you want to be authentic, use this format. So he went back, he used the format and he said something like, you know what, you guys are brilliant. And here I really find that I'm struggling. And here I think I need to count on you. But if you guys go wrong, we're going to lose in millions. Okay. So he also gave them a sense of importance in that sense. The first reaction, and he was telling when he started laughing, the first thing that happened is 6 people were sitting, 3 of them looked at each other, and one guy actually did the. He said, what happened? He said, honestly, sir, we could sense it from our first meeting, but you're the boss, so how would he say it? And then he said, okay, so now what do you think what we need to do? And they suddenly started, we can do this, we can do this. Suddenly my dashboards were filled up, which I had never seen in a long time. And they wanted to do stuff, and all I had to learn, and that's another thing I teach in leadership. The more you step back, the more the next line will show up.
Yes.
And it's really like a dance of salsa. Okay, my biggest lesson in leadership I learned when I was learning salsa. That you have to follow a pattern, but you have to remember it's 2 steps forward, one step backward. 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. And ever since he began to do it, he's like, I think I want to be more honest with my US partners. I'm like, go ahead. Because the only thing sometimes it is required is they have to see, hey, this produces result.
Yeah.
Because corporate world is all about results at the end of the day. So if they find a safe way in which they can be authentic, in which they can state what they really need, want, without having to worry about others' needs being violated, I think they do a great job.
Great.
Yeah.
What is vulnerability?
In plain simple words, vulnerability is the comfort of being in your own skin and being at peace with being who you are.
What stops us from being vulnerable?
What stops us from being vulnerable is all the experience in the past where we've been vulnerable, and then either we were taken for a ride, we were laughed at, we were made fun of, or sometimes we were perceived as weak, powerless. I think that stops us from being vulnerable. B, we always want to be in control of how our vulnerability will be perceived. And this is the biggest block to vulnerability, because by definition, the moment of vulnerability is losing control. You're fully surrendering and you're willing to tell the truth of what you're feeling, in that moment or about something. And when I don't feel safe, I stop. So the second facet, what stops us from being vulnerable is when we feel unsafe, we don't be. Okay? But I also want to bring in another element to vulnerability, because it's not like the level at which you can be vulnerable, let's say with your life partner, and the level of vulnerability that you have to show, let's say, in the corporate office if you're working. So I think that first we need to have a distinction. The distinction is, there is a distinction between being naive and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Being naive is not even being aware of and being cognizant of the impact of the truth that I'm sharing and who I'm sharing the truth with. And when it comes to who, the second facet is we have 3 layers of relationships. And in each layer, the level of vulnerability that is required differs. And mostly people confuse this. And hence they become afraid. For example, I feel people who are closest to you, like your life partner, your lover, or people, if you're living in a community, the people that you're going to live in the community with. These are the people you have to be most vulnerable with and most authentic with. Because this is where you're truly experiencing the juice and the quality of life. Okay? And if here you can't be vulnerable, then there is some serious work that you need to do. Okay? On yourself and on the relationships that you have. The second is close social. Close social is people you work with, people you're friends with, or people that you have known for a long time. They don't live inside your house, but they really know you. Okay? This is another layer of vulnerability where you can take risks, where you can share, where you can be more and more authentic. Okay? But the third one, and this is where naive element comes in. You meet somebody at a party, you meet somebody at a conference, or it's a very, very formal kind of a meeting, and you're meeting somebody for the first time, and suddenly a topic comes and you vulnerably share everything about it. I feel this sometimes could be perceived as naive. You don't know where the person is coming from. You don't know whether they are really interested.
Yeah.
And many times I've seen that people express vulnerably in situations, environments where actually it was not necessary.
Yeah.
And then they have a trauma, and after the trauma, they're like, okay, now I'm going to stop being vulnerable everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky part. But I guess we are never taught about the relationship distinctions. Because I think if we learn that, we understand that, oh, here I can be totally vulnerable. I can be safe.
Rightly. So this relationship distinction, when you really get to know, then you will be able to be truly vulnerable and create safe spaces at workplaces as well.
Yes.
Then you don't close your doors and have barriers.
Exactly.
There. Yeah.
And in fact, I have a simple recommendation if you want to create more safe spaces at your workplace, is a paste that feeling statement circles, okay, in your meeting rooms. Check-in, okay. Get people used to that, okay. Number 2, write it or communicate it in your leadership address that all feelings are welcome here. Because when feelings become welcome, and when others see that, hey, okay, these feelings are welcome, this kind of a comment is welcome, people automatically begin to feel safe and they begin to open up. And sometimes, if you're in a leadership position, you have to also demonstrate it. Okay, and this is where the catch is. Okay, and this is what I see nowadays happening. Suddenly, vulnerability is a catchphrase in all the self-help circles. Okay, and now corporate leaders are getting trained to be vulnerable, or they want to appear to be vulnerable, and this is a tricky scene. Okay.
Because it's not truly there.
It's not truly there. You're doing it for the camera. Okay, and rather I've known and heard stories that sometimes even the leaders of the nation, before they had to do a very important address, were told to present themselves in a certain way, which appeals to people. And they had to look vulnerable. But if you look at that, now that's what I say, the crookedness has come in. It's no longer what you're getting is just a manufactured stuff. So it is tricky, but the simple suggestion I have, especially for people in the leadership position, ask yourself, what would be more damaging? I not being vulnerable right now, or I being vulnerable right now and dealing with the effects? And take a guess for yourself. Okay. Mostly your fear will kick in, but then you ask another question, that if you are not vulnerable, if you're not going to be authentic and not going to share this, and if tomorrow it is found out, and
because
now
truth will
truth
surface.
will surface. Okay. And as we are seeing in the world, it is surfacing. Okay. We are being watched all the time.
Yeah.
Google knows us much better than we know ourselves. I likely to say that, The algorithms have cracked our whole composition of our personality. In such spaces, I feel being vulnerable can actually be a strength in the long run. But it is also true that when your vulnerability gets used against you,
I think that's where people are fearful of.
That's where people are fearful, but I guess this is where you have to do a bit of self-work, maybe go into therapy and all of that, and get back to being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, after your afternoon of life, what touches you the most is vulnerability. Because it's like when you've been on the planet for 60, 65 years, there's something which my late grandmother once said to me. And she said it in Marathi, maybe I'll translate it. And she said that after staying for so long, I can figure out. So you better don't lie to me. And I feel that if you really want to build deep, intimate connection, and if one of the abundance that you want to have is an abundance of love in your life, then the currency of vulnerability is your only access to it. There is no other way you can get there. As in, you can try, and people try, but then a lot of loneliness creeps in.
So what are masculine and feminine energies?
Oh, interesting.
And how to integrate them?
Okay. So firstly, let me say that this is not gender-based. But for ease of use, we can say that each man has both masculine and feminine facets of his personality. And same is for each woman, both masculine and feminine. For example, in a man, the feminine facet could be his sensitivity, his ability to listen, his ability to be present. Okay. In the Taoist term, it's like all the yin qualities. Okay. Which is to not jump to a conclusion. This is feminine. Okay. What is masculine? Masculine is taking action, decision making. People, both in men and women, if your decision making capacity is weak, means your masculine is weak. If you cannot take a decision about something important in your life quickly, means the masculine side of you is missing.
There is also shallow masculine.
Yes,
and
both.
Deep.
Yes.
And there is also divine masculine.
Yes. So let's understand. So the masculine, let's say, is divided into three parts. Okay? The highest expression of masculine is to be on the planet to keep safe space for his women or women on the planet to feel safe and be themselves fully and to come to their fruition fully. That is the divine masculine. Okay. He would be a man who would stand guard so that the women in his life or women who show up in his work, whoever it is, they would feel safe to be themselves, to express themselves fearlessly and to be the best version of themselves.
Very powerful.
That is the divine masculine. The shadow masculine...
shallow or you'll go to deep?
No, I would say shadow.
Okay.
The shadow masculine, shadow and shallow masculine is similar.
Same,
okay. The shadow masculine is somebody who's afraid of women, somebody who feels threatened by women, or sometimes at the workplace they feel very threatened by women who are very competent. Okay, that's the shadow masculine. And then they try stuff to either misalign her image or stuff that they do, talking behind back and all of that. That's the shadow masculine. Okay.
I'm not saying much. Many of the people can relate to
relate to it. Okay. On the other hand, let's also look at the women, and and let's look at the shadow masculine in them. Okay, so in shadow masculine, the way it shows up in a woman is manipulation. Okay, is hiding or presenting the facts in a way which look so convincing, but they know that which is not the truth. But as a woman, when you talk strongly about it, then people might tend to believe, and that's the shadow part of the masculine in the woman itself. But what is the highest form of divine masculine in a woman? Is a woman who doesn't feel threatened by other women. The first one. Okay. B is a woman who can take firm decisions. C, somebody who could look at taking action from a point of view is what is the highest this action can produce.
Yes.
And fourth, who can take very fearless strategy-based decisions which are going to impact the long term of the organization or the people that they're working with. This is the highest. Okay. The other highest form that I've seen in women, and maybe I would like to state some examples. I like to believe personally that both during my rise and in my lowest times, I like to believe that because there were powerful women that I was supported by, I somehow could survive through. For example, the first being my mother. And I remember the time when it became apparent that my business loss was huge and there was no way of getting out, and I told them that so and so thing has happened. She gave me a look and she said, well, if you could create this, I'm sure you will be able to recreate it again. And after that till now, and trust me, and I think just touch wood, I think I've been blessed with the parents who never questioned me on my mistakes, who never, I would say I'm just being plain lucky here. They never nagged me and all of that. The second person I would like to state is my oldest friend in Pune, and who also happens to be my business partner, Manisha. She's quite an amazing teacher herself.
I've met her.
You've met her. She is one person. I felt that I learned a lot of my lessons of abundance from her. Okay, I think women understand abundance quite differently, and if the man can really honor that, they learn a lot. So I'll give you an example. So the masculine in me, which comes from Mumbai, comes to this place, and then he's like, I have to have a website, and I have to have this, and I have to have that. Everything for me to become a successful, coach or facilitator, whatever that I wanted to become that time. And she would look at me very, very innocently, and she would like, I don't think it works like that. And I'm like, otherwise how will money come? And she's like, money just comes here. You just have to be in good alignment. You have to do the work that you really love, and money will start flowing. And I'm like, you don't understand. But today I feel proud to say that today I understand. Yes, that's how work flows. You have to really do what really touches you, what really moves you, and if it makes a difference in the world in some way, it works. Okay. B, she also taught me decision making in complex times. I think, this is one thing you will see about women, and it's a silent strength. Something goes wrong in the man's job, in man's work or life. What do men do mostly? Now, I don't want to gender bias it. They hit the bar in the evening, start drinking, smoke a lot, abuse with their friends, stuff like that. When the woman is to go through this, she still has to cook. She still has to make sure the house is looking good when the guests come. She still has to go to the job and do the job. So if you ask me, they teach men resilience by simply being themselves. When the man doesn't see it, he is not in touch with his feminine, and he's not in touch with the feminine in him. The third example I want to give is my girlfriend. And we've known each other for a long time, and then we were together, we were not together, and then we decided to be together fully.
I know her as well.
And you know her as well. And one of her quietest strengths is when I'm not in my good headspace, she can observe me like a kid. Okay? And she kind of tells me, I think maybe I'll tell you after a couple of days. Okay? And earlier I used to be very angry, like, no, you have to tell me now, like now. And then one day when I was in a sober mood, and she said, Raj, the trouble is, I know you want to fight and argue. But that's not going to serve me, not going to serve you. So it's best next time you listen when I say I don't want to tell you. And also that one tip really helped me big time. So I feel that when the men begin to actually see the role women are playing quietly in their life, their divine feminine becomes stronger. And vice versa.
Oh my God.
Yeah. When the woman begins to see the contribution that the masculine energy has made in their life, okay, both positive and negative, when they begin to acknowledge it, their inner masculine begins to become strong.
My God.
And I feel that the way whoever the creator has built this beautiful world, it's a beautiful dance of both masculine and feminine. Like as they say in Tantras, the whole of existence is simply a dance between the Shiva and Shakti, which is just masculine and feminine. If we look at organization, I feel manufacturing, when you're producing something, masculine. When it goes to customer, you're dealing with the customer, dealing with irate customers, feminine skills. When you have to engage a consultant to resolve an issue, it's a feminine insight. Boss, tumko nahi jam raha hai, kisi aur ko bulao. Okay. When it is taking tough decisions, I think we have to withdraw from this market. I think we have to now maybe,
masculine.
Scale down operations, masculine. So if you look at any place in the world, you will find that the discord happens when the masculine and the feminine energies are not balanced or not honored enough. I say the wars happening on the planet is simply a sign of the shadow masculine, which gains a lot of energy out of the power and killing and violence, because violence is deep-rooted. Our amygdala, which is what we share with even animals, that part of our brain which is always scanning for threats. Now, because there are no personal threats, I have perceptual threats and I begin to fight that. But I feel that if people in power position become aware of this play of the masculine and feminine within their own psyche, and they begin to balance it out, I don't really say then world will be a better place or nicer place, but I feel there could be a hope that we could be willing to look at things a little bit more calmly. But again, that's if and when. But I feel on a personal basis, if you're watching this, one of my serious recommendation to all the men is to be fearless to look at what are the feminine qualities that can really be helpful for you and embrace them. It's quite powerful. And if you're a woman, you may want to look at what are the masculine qualities within you that you're not expressing much, and maybe you want to express them. And I think that can make a big difference.
Beautiful.
So,
thank you, Raj. Thank you for being here.
Most welcome. Thanks for inviting me. I've had fun the whole day and it's been a pleasure.
So did I. I really enjoyed this whole session with you. Thank you.
Most welcome.
I'm so sure that you enjoyed today's podcast and it has touched and moved you. This would help you in your inner journey as well as at workplaces. If you want to contact Raj Mali, the details are in the description. And if you would like to share your revelation or aha moments, please write to us. If you have any questions, please write to us and let's keep in touch. Thank you for being here.